When I was little, I had a really hard time going to sleep. The dark terrified me, and it would take hours of back rubs and stories to finally get me to go down. One night, my dad had had enough and was determined to get rid of this nighttime fear. So he came into my room and told me to get dressed, and then to meet him on the back porch. For 2 hours, we spent exploring our neighborhood in the dark. He told me about the magic of the moon and all the sleeping animals. We explored every inch of our neighborhood that night, looking at all of the colorless plants and all the colorless houses, and then we talked about what they looked like in the daytime. Before I knew it, I didn't even realize that I was in the dark. And to my mom's pleasant surprise, my dad had finally rid me of my nighttime fear. In my classroom, we have recently been writing a lot about fear. During this crazy time, students are scared. They're too young to be hearing about nationwide death rates and hospitalizations, yet this is the world that we are living in. My goal for this assignment is to get students talking about fear and to learn new strategies on how to overcome these emotions. This is why I've chosen a wonderful nonfiction story written and illustrated by Patricia Polacco. This is the front cover of the story. Unfortunately, the copy I have is in my classroom, so I can't go get it. But in this story, Patricia Polacco recalls on her childhood fear of thunder. She uses remarkable descriptive writing to talk about the bright lightning and the loud crackling thunder that would shake her grandmother's old cottage. She recalls on running and hiding underneath her bed, out of fear and too afraid to come out. To help her overcome her fear, Patricia's babushka teaches her how to make a thunder cake, which is a cake that can only be perfected during the loudest and scariest of storms. Throughout the story, Babushka teaches Patricia that if you look at your fear in a new way, it isn't so scary anymore. For my during reading activity, I've asked my students to complete a character perspective chart. This is the chart that I sent my students in an email to their parents so they could print it off. And it looks just like the one, or is very similar to the one that was in the during reading activity article. But this activity that I chose with my students, the reason I chose it was to kind of give them a chance to dive deep into the main character's perspective of fear and how it makes her feel. And it also allows them to see another character's understanding of the thunderstorm rather than just Patricia. So it kind of gives them the ability to compare and contrast the two characters. But my goal for this was to help students learn how to reflect on their own fear and to find new ways to overcome it, just like Patricia did. The assignment also helps students build their compare and contrast skills, which is what we were working on before the quarantine started. But overall, this activity was extremely successful. I used it with a small group over a WebEx meeting on this past Thursday, and it was with a group of 7 students who kind of have been struggling with their reading, and so I spend more time with them than the rest of my class. But I read the students the book twice and asked them to complete the chart while I was reading because it is the during reading activity. After the students were finished, we engaged in a small group discussion about fear and how it makes us feel. My class opened up about a wide ranges of fear and how they overcome them. One student told us a story about his own fear of clowns, which is near and dear to my heart because I am also terrified of clowns. But he was explaining that after he went to the fair and kind of seeing them close up, they weren't so scary anymore, just like Patricia did with thunderstorms. This activity was designed to help students dig deeper into text and to help them kind of find hidden meanings and lessons, which are oftentimes overlooked. This is also why it is critical that teachers use evidence-based reading activities in their lessons, just like this one. This evidence-based activity is aimed to provide students with the best learning method that will help them increase their comprehension and critical thinking skills. But overall, this activity was a wonderful opportunity for students to open up about fears and how it is making them feel right now. I know that we're kind of living in a world of the unknown right now, and it's so important to get kids talking and understanding about these emotions that we're all feeling. And Thunder Cake really gives these students an opportunity to realize that they're not the only ones who are afraid, but there are ways to kind of overcome these emotions and to find the happiness and the joys in fear, in being scared. But I mean, I was very open with my students and I was talking to them about how I'm scared right now. And to kind of get my mind off being scared, I'll go bake a thunder cake, or I'll go for a run, or I'll go play with my dog outside, get some fresh air. But overall, the character chart and being able to have a small group discussion about this book was a wonderful opportunity for my students to open up and just spend time discussing these really important emotions and feelings.